most of your records, resonance records, correct me if I'm wrong, come out on Record Store Day, and most of them are limited pressings available. So they're sort of collectible as soon as they hit.
Yeah.
But you do reissue some things. You reissued some other time. You on the last. So could that hold true for records in the future? Like maybe you'll reissue the Sonny Rollins record as well?
It could. You know, we like to do things. I have to say, I know it's. I've heard complaints from some people about Record Store Day. I have to say that Record Store Day has afforded us the opportunity to do these kind of projects, and I'll explain why very briefly. When you do a limited edition, when you participate exclusively in this event, it's a one-way sale. We set a number, and we've been shipping sold out, which is unbelievable.
How do you set the number?
It's really kind of a variety on a bunch of different things, trajectory, looking at what we sold on the last release in the marketplace, trying to identify, hey, how many total possible consumers are there to find this release out there, and not getting greedy, but fixing a number because, you know, see, unless you run a label, you probably wouldn't be aware there's so many out-of-pocket expenses that are incurred, the LP mastering, the manufacturing, so many the payments, so many stuff that's like upfront, out of pocket. Record labels oftentimes don't even get paid until 3, 4, 5 months after the releases come out, the end of the following month. So we're also a 501c3 not-for-profit foundation at Resonance. But that doesn't give us the license to hemorrhage, and we've got to do things right. But because of Record Store Day, because we ship sold out and we can do something without getting too greedy, we're able to get these projects out. And because of Record Store Day, we get the quick influx of cash back. We can recoup and cover on so much of the out-of-pocket expenses, let alone the overhead and other things that go in here. George Claben is one of the most generous guys. You know, he gave me my start. I was the sales and marketing guy. He said, "You want to be a producer? I don't know why you haven't. I'll let you do it if you can go out and find stuff that I like." And it's just been a whole quest like this.
And the Evans I'm reading here is 6,000. Sonny Rollins is 7. 2,000 for Dexter.
Actually, it's the other way around. It's 7 on Bill Evans, 6 on Sonny, and 2,000 on Monty Alexander. And
what about the Coleman? There's no number on the Coleman.
Yeah, we did 1,500 of that.
1,500. So I mean, these are. You know, I asked Fred Cohen a while ago when I did some interview videos with him, if you were going to start collecting today, since, you know, most Blue Notes are not only unavailable to most people and they're rising in price, you just can't find them. What would you collect? And he said, all of these Record Store Day releases, especially the Resonance records. There's a hardcore audience, obviously, that buys all these Bill Evans records, but this Sonny is such an incredible find. Let's talk about that a little bit, just in particular, how you are. I've read the liner notes and there's great interviews in here. What was that process like, finding this recording and issuing it?
It was great. So I was mentioning before, we did this Bill Evans album in 2017 called Another Time. And I got the chance to working with a Dutch jazz journalist and archivist, a guy named Frank Jochimsen. He also works with the Netherlands Jazz Archive. They've done a series of recordings. And anyways, Frank has kind of like been my Mr. Boots on the ground in Amsterdam and in the Netherlands, giving me updates, and he's finding stuff. And I'll never forget, he called me in March of 2018. We'd already worked on the Bill Evans. He said, "Zeb, you're not going to believe this. I think this is how it was." Is that, or he wrote to me. I think we had a phone chat, and he explained to me that he had these recordings of what he discovered. It was Sonny Rollins in a mislabeled tape box, and at the archives, and it was from Vara Studio 5. It's with Ruud Jacobs and Han Bennick, and it was basically a half hour. It was recorded, and I think they were actually supposed to originally destroy the tape.
Wow.
After it was used, but it survived. So he found it. We started talking. And it started conversations that went on basically for a couple of years and brought us to the road where we are here. But in the process, Frank also tracked down some of the other steps in the Netherlands. There were 2 concerts that were given one at this club that wasn't recorded called Persepolis. Maybe mispronouncing that. That's named after a city in Iran.
Mhm.
And then also this Academy of Arts in Arnhem, where they did a concert which was recorded. Actually, it was a bootleg, which we've included highlights, most of the music. And then Frank found the audio of a television program that had been done at a club called the Go-Go Club. So this group was documented. They were making some things happen. He went over there. This follows a time in Sonny's life where he had been living in an ashram in India. And you read Aiden's liner notes. If you read my interview with Sonny Rollins, you're going to get a lot of perspective of what's going on with Sonny. As he's described this music as it's take no prisoners, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, let's go. And when you listen to it, here's my impression. And I think there are some saxophonists out there and musicologists that might be able to articulate this better. But to me, the trio is to me like without a net. You're exposed, you're out there, people are listening very carefully, and only the greats can really do that. Of course, we think back to like Live at the Village Vanguard, right? The trio recordings there. Sonny also had really made the trio thing happen even in 1959 when he's going over to Europe. He plays Sweden, he plays France, I think Germany too, and he had like Henry Grimes on bass, and I believe he had Pete LaRocca.
Really?
And those aren't officially released for folks. But anyways, you could probably find it on YouTube. But anyways, Sonny really just, man, these guys they're right there. They're locked and they're having great time, and the music is just at an incredibly high level. Sonny loved this music, and I was really glad that he wanted to see it come out, and he was totally in support and in favor of this production. I'm very grateful for that, because there are some artists, Sonny is certainly known to be one of them, that doesn't always, how do we say this, doesn't always want to look back on the past, really likes to look at it more of a recent state. But he recognized the enjoyment that he had in playing with these guys.
Yeah, they're such great players. I mean, Han Bennett, to my way of thinking, has always been like he's as traditional as Philly Joe Jones, but then he's a real futurist as well, not to mention playing with his shoes and playing on the wall. He is a real Renaissance drummer. He covers every era of drumming. And I didn't know this bass player, but he sounds phenomenal. I mean, this is such a killing trio. I mean, it's shocking. To me, it's up there. It's easily up there with the two records from the Village Vanguard. And Sonny's on fire. I mean, I made it my, at Stereophile, we do the records to die for every year. And I made that one of my two records, because it is just, it's really, really something. Well, then tell me, I mean, we talked a little bit about the Bill Evans Live at Ronnie Scott's. You saying this was done at the same time they later went to the Black Forest and cut that record?
Yeah, that was actually at the end, I believe, of that tour. That came after the Black Forest, after Hilversum, and after Montreux. I believe, I got to look. I think they wrapped up by playing 4 weeks there, but I'm sure there's somebody that's got the calendar that may correct me in case I'm wrong. That's okay. I know these are important details, and I respect those guys out there. I get the fact checkers all the time that are ready to jump in and call me on my shit, but it's
what
okay.
Do you think it is? I know, the main releases, those the Bill Evans Prestige releases, those are some of the greatest selling jazz records of all time. What is it about Bill Evans that people love so much?
Bill Evans is really one of the guys that taught me about the beauty and subtlety and the way that the chords are played, and how things can be just riveting in a different way. You just got to stop and listen. And he really just he just takes it to a different place for me. I think back, a lot of people may get a chuckle out of this. I know a lot of folks want to talk about, hey man, Scott LaFaro and Paul Motion, that's the trio. But for me, ironically enough, I'll never forget, there was a Tower record store in my hometown. And I remember I was making this commitment. I was going to buy a Bill Evans box set. Do I get the Riverside or do I get the fantasy recordings? I thought he looked pretty dope with that beard. So I got the fantasy recordings. So for me, my listening really started with Intuition, the Tokyo concert, and that whole output in the 70s. And getting a chance, really, the partnership between him and Gomez is also something to me which is just remarkable. And knowing Eddie now and having a great rapport with him has also been really special. But anyways, but Bill is the guy that taught me about beauty. It doesn't always have to be about, going on all cylinders, like, and really, I love the groove. He does a different he does his own thing. And my sales guy and marketing guy at Resonance, Anton DeSantis, a guy who I've worked with for a long time, he's not like the total jazz bow, like card carrying member like a lot of us are in the JVL group. But he said something to me really funny. He said, Bill Evans is kind of like the Grateful Dead of jazz. They do a lot of these same songs over and over, but there's something to be said about that. Like the Grateful Dead, every time Bill Evans performed this repertoire nightly, every time he digged in from within inside himself to pull out something that was new, raising it to a new height. And I can you imagine like doing those songs like Nardis every time? I just as an example, right? And like the whole intros to Nardis are a whole study for a lot of other people too, the live versions. But anyways, there's just so much to him that really speaks to me. I love Bill Evans' music, and I'm just really honored to be able to contribute to his legacy.
You spoke to your goal was to buy a box set, and that reminds me of the Nat King Cole box set you did, which is just a revelation, a masterpiece. I mean, that record, if you think you know who Nat King Cole is, you don't until you hear this box set. And not only is the fidelity incredible to be taken from air transcription disc or whatever, I mean, the performances, man, what a great record. And it appears, I mean, that's a thing where I get the impression you went to the nth degree to get the best recordings and put so many records in there. I mean, that's just, if you had only done that, I mean, that should have gone up for a Grammy. That's such an incredible recording. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, it's very exciting. So this morning we were just announced nominated for a Grammy in the Best Historical Album category, which is an unbelievable thrill. But first of all, I got to say something. Give me the opportunity now. I work with a team of people. I am one man. I bring something in. I have to go. George writes, my boss writes the checks, or Corey Reeves writes the checks.
Great.
Or Don was. But I've got a designer, John Sellards. My hat's off to you. He did all these Record Store Day releases. I hope he's listening because I'm crazy about this guy, and he's become like my right hand in creative design. My production manager,
and let me ask you, I'm just not to interrupt you, but where did you find this David Stone Martin? It's amazing.
I'm glad you asked. So I've been working with a photo agent that many of us in the business know for a number of years now. Her name is Cynthia Sesso. She has a company called CTS Images. If you've had any of the Resonance releases, you're probably bound to find at least a couple of pictures in each package or more that are credited to her company. And we're both really cut from the same cloth. She's a really nice person. And we were talking one day back in 2012 when I was doing Live at Art Lugoff's Top of the Gate. And she said to me, she made me aware that, I'm going to give you these images and things to consider. But I've also got something, if you're ever interested, let me know. I have a hand-drawn illustration by David Stone Martin that he did for me at his home when I went to visit him, I think maybe in the mid-1980s.
Wow.
And as I continued over the last number of years putting together these Evans releases, photography is something that to me is very important, really having great images. I've looked at hundreds of images of Bill Evans. And when we were doing Ronnie Scott's, I said, it's time to come back and revisit this one. So I said, Cynthia, could you show it to me? I fell in love with this image.
Yeah, it's great.
And David Stone Martin, just, a lot of your subscribers know this. He is really one of the most important album cover designers and commercial artists. He, did numerous covers for Time Magazine, Broadway posters, other sorts of commercial art. And Mercury, Clef, Norgrand, Verve, Progressive Records in the 1970s and
Right.
early 80s, I believe. And to me, he's just someone that inspires me, and I collect his work. And I'm actually working on a coffee table book at the moment with David Stowe Martin's daughter-in-law, Margot Farrington, and Margot's husband, David Stowe Martin's son, Tony Martin, that hopefully we're going to have together sometime next year for the Jazz Images book series that comes out of Barcelona. Some folks may be familiar. They've done 2 volumes of Francis Wolff, Jean-Pierre Loire, William Claxton. I think I'm leaving out another. And now, hopefully, David Stowe Martin, and God willing, we're working on a Don Schlitten book as well, which includes his photography. You know where David Stowe Martin's signature is on this illustration. I had to move things around. Normally, the Resonance logo would have been right in that spot, so we moved it.
Monty Alexander is the least known of all these guys, I think, even though he's done a ton of recordings. And what's the story on this one?
Oh my gosh, I love Monty Alexander. And I've got this unbelievable simpatico sometimes with my boss, George Claiborne, who also loves Monty Alexander. To me, he's just a remarkable artist, incredible pianist, really a disciple and descendant, if you will, of Nat King Cole and Errol Garner and even Tatum to an extent. I think he's wonderful. He does his own thing. And I've been collecting his records for a long time. You know, this was the guy who was the house pianist at Gillies in New York, where Sinatra was. Sinatra knew how to choose a good piano player. I believe he was the one that helped make that possible. But Monty is just really a remarkable, extraordinary artist. And I had the good fortune of meeting him, first of all, back in the mid-90s when I worked at Polygram Records. We had an imprint there called Island Jamaica Jazz. Chris Blackwell made this imprint. And there were 2 records that came out, one by Monty and one by his good friend Ernie Ranglin. And it's the both of them. They both made records. Anyways, I started collecting Monty's records. Here we go, MPS Records again. Here Comes the Sun. We've Only Just Begun.
Well, he was on MPS. I didn't know that.
He was, and he was on Pacific Jazz. He recorded his first couple of records with Dick Bach on Pacific Jazz. And, you know, he came Miami via Kingston, Jamaica. I believe it's Kingston. I don't know. He's from Jamaica. But anyways, I love Monty. We've known each other for a number of years. And then all these years later, George Claiborne was like, you know, I want to do a project with Monty. Oh my God, Monty is one of George's favorite pianists. Okay, sign me up. But this is also a really wonderful band too, with the bassist Paul Berner, drummer Duffy Jackson, who's Chubby Jackson's son, and the percussionist Robert Thomas Jr. Yes, that guy who played with Weather Report amongst others. He's the percussionist, and it's a great recording. You really get a great dose of Monty. I mean, this is Monty at his very best. And it's just a wonderful recording, and it sounds great. All of our stuff is pressed by RTI, by the way, and this one was mastered for LP by Bernie Grunman. Sonny Rollins was done by Kevin Gray. George Coleman was done by Kevin Gray,
right?
And Bill Evans was done by Bernie Grunman too. In case you're keeping track at home.
And I know you were kind enough to send me the CDs as well. Do you do CDs for all your vinyl releases, and sometimes they come out later, and is the same exact track lineup between LP and CD?
I do. I think it's very important to have the LP and the CD have the same track lineup. I really, it bugs me when labels don't do that. I mean, I was having a conversation, a heated one last night with a label exec for a project that I'm hopefully going to be working on. And they're like, well, we can just, no. Everything has to be the same. It's got to be uniform. But Ken, here's what we're doing. With Record Store Day, we put it first out. We released it first on vinyl as an exclusive. And then what happens is the CD and the digital components come out like a week or 2 later. But we like to lead off. I want Record Store Day. I want the LP, the vinyl buying community to be able to get the head start and have it as an exclusive. This music's supposed to be listened to on vinyl, analog, so.
So tell me about George Coleman. I always thought of George Coleman as kind of a renegade, a guy who didn't get his due. They'd one record with Miles. Why do a record on him, and how did you find this recording?
Well, I have to first of all give props where it's due to my the co-founder of Reel to Reel Records, Corey Weeds in Vancouver. This is a project that he really spearheaded and he made possible. These were recordings that we found in the Left Bank Jazz Society's archives. I've had a good fortune. I've become kind of like the de facto custodian of the tapes, working with one of the founding members, John Fowler. And actually, I've got a bunch of tape reels behind me from the Left Bank. They're up on that shelf. It's a whole other story. But George Coleman is a very underappreciated renegade, like you said, in the music. He was a very big part of Miles Davis's band before Wayne Shorter. And it's so interesting to me that his first recordings as a leader didn't really come until the mid to late 1970s, but this predates all that, being in 1971. These recordings also, I should mention, featured trumpeter Danny Moore, the legendary pianist Albert Daly, Larry Ridley on bass, and Harold White. And it's a beautiful bop-blowing session, and recorded at the famous ballroom in Baltimore on May 23rd, 1971. And it's a wonderful release. And that photograph, these are some wonderful Francis Wolff images that were taken and used. We did, and some wonderful liner notes too. Michael Cascuna wrote the main liner notes as well.
Oh, wow. Is this something Corey unearthed?
Well, I found the tapes originally in the Left Bank archives, and then I shared them with Corey, and he fell in love with it. Now, Corey is really good friends with Mr. Coleman, or as the Big G, as he says. I wish I could be there for some of their infamous steak dinners together.
Wow.
But they're very good friends. And this is really wonderful that this is coming out, because we get to celebrate George Coleman while he's here with us now. Boogaloos, bossas, and calypsos of Lee Morgan in one place. And we're also going to do the Latin recordings of Bobby Hutcherson. These are playlists for adults, for guys that have the vinyl. When we're going to do some Pacific jazz related stuff too, coming down the pipe. This coming April, we're going to be putting out previously unissued recordings featuring the late great Roy Hargrove on Resonance, which is going to be a very exciting release.
Wow.
I'm going to also probably be reissuing a title for Record Store Day from the catalog. Stay tuned for that. And there'll be amazing things for Blue Note to talk about. The Don Schlitten and David Starr Martin coffee table books. Stuff evolves on a daily basis, it seems. I don't even like jumping up on the beat in my chest until I know it's really happening. I'll also say that we're going to have a Bill Evans project at Resonance, which is going to be extraordinary from all analog sources, which is going to be in impeccable quality. And that's going to be at the later part of next year, and a few other goodies too. Hang on to your hats, everybody. A lot of what we do is literally about playing it long. It takes time, negotiations, rights holders, individuals, making stuff happen. It's the stars and the moon have to align, babe, and it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't, but there is so much good stuff happening right now. I want to focus on the positive energies in this universe. I feel like I'm having a bit of a moment right now, and I realize I want to say, I understand I'm not the only guy that does this kind of work. The fact that so many folks in JVL and in the public have been so kind to me, I don't take that for granted. I'm so grateful. I just want people to know that I'm going to keep trying to do the best job that I can every day. I don't take this for granted. And I really thank everyone for all their support. Thanks for buying these releases. Thanks for supporting Resonance and all the other labels. And just know, but I'm working on stuff, trying to get something else up that sleeve. There are a few things up there right now. So it's really great to speak with you, Ken.
Well,
Pleasure.
you're a godsend to all of us jazz fans. You're a man of his time. What is that image on your T-shirt? It's yellow. I meant to ask you what that is.
Well, this is a T-shirt that actually I bought from Sam Rivers. I want to say 1998 at Sweet Basil in New York. Man, I'll tell you, one of the lead shows that I'm very fond of. I got to see Sam Rivers, I think, one time. He played a week at Sweet Basil with Doug Matthews and Anthony Cole, and they did this trio I'll never forget. And they took turns exchanging instruments.
Oh wow!
It was a mind blower. And there's some people that saw these guys. Sam Rivers is someone that I really admire a lot. I like a lot of different music. I wanted to wear something today, like a T-shirt that I just felt like I needed to leave the tuxedo in the closet. Let's just kind of be down with my brothers and sisters in this group. I live, eat, breathe, and sleep this music like you guys do, and I'm just yeah, man. Sam Rivers, streams of consciousness. I get a lot of streams of consciousness when I listen to Sam Rivers. I think a lot of you do, and a lot of your other subscribers do too.